What's going on, Soul Tribe? And welcome to Alchemist Astrology. Justin here, and are you ready to get into those lunar shenanigans? Because we got some. It's business as usual with the moon. There are some. The end of the week is looking a little bit busier. The moon has about 3 aspects that'll form before it moves into Sagittarius. But for the most part, we'll have like the monthly opposition that the moon has with Saturn that can tend to be a bit of a tenser time, and then there's going to be a square with Mars once the moon moves into Scorpio. That's going to be a bit of another one, little trickier one to kind of navigate there. But the moon's still got a little bit of support with the benefics in those signs as well. So we'll navigate this week together. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And one of the things that I do in this channel is talk about the lunar shenanigans, which is just the astrology of the moon, what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it happens to go void of course, and just to get a feel of the energies each week as the moon is transiting through the different zodiac signs and forming these different connections and how they may be influencing the week as we kind of go through this period of time. The moon's closely associated with the body, closely associated with the people. So, it's good to track that good old moon. I actually got some really great pictures of the moon here. The moon was given, but I'll talk about that a little later. Now, if you want to support the work that I'm doing before we jump into the saying, if you want to support the work I'm doing further, down in the description box there is a link for my Patreon page, and I have 2 tiers on there. One of them will give you access to the Lucky Day podcast, which gives you the most auspicious dates for each month for whatever endeavor that you're initiating. And then the other tier will give you access to that plus a personalized transit report from me, which is like the next best thing from getting like a personal reading from me. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely go check that out. That information's down there. But let's go ahead and get into this week here, because I'm going to be covering February 3rd through the 9th, 2026, and let's get into it. Because we start off here, moon chilling in Virgo. This is the 3rd here, and the moon's in its waning phase right now, just coming off that full moon. And during this day, the moon is just building up to some aspects right now. It's not going to have too much going on, considering that we still have, if you're watching this, I have a chart up here that has the moon in Virgo towards the end of the day. There's at about 16 degrees and 5 minutes of Virgo. But right now it's averse to all of those planets in Aquarius. So it's just really going to form aspects, one with Jupiter and then one with Saturn. That's going to be a bit of a tenser one there. But I like that the moon starts off forming it with Jupiter. They're going to happen about the same time. Because let's get into the 4th. Let's talk about this. Because we first have that sextile that's going to happen with Jupiter. Now, when you think about the sextile, they're when the celestial bodies are 60 degrees apart, as you can see here on the chart, and they're not as positive as the trine energy, but they're the next best thing. They require a bit more initiative, but they can create these opportunities. And what Jupiter may be creating these opportunities for is for whatever the Saturnian thing is happening. Because later, after the moon forms that with Jupiter, then we still have that Saturn opposition that's going to be happening, and the oppositions are when they're 180 degrees apart from one another, so in opposite signs. And I have that chart up there for the moon opposing Saturn. It's at about 29 degrees and 4 minutes of Virgo. And one thing that I just was thinking about as the moon is making these final aspects with Saturn and Pisces, like this is it, that Saturn and Pisces era that we've been going through over the last few years with Saturn being there. It's going to have this and then a few other kind of conversations. It's going to have a trine with Saturn, and eventually we'll have a square with Saturn. But then the next time that we'll talk to it, Saturn will be in a whole different sign and we'll be in a whole different vibe. And there could be, with that opposition with Saturn, there could feel that tension of where are things going? How do we create this sense of abundance? How do we still show up? How does one still desire amongst restrictions in things when the desires are taking long? Because Jupiter's still retrograde. While we're talking about this, Jupiter won't be direct till I think it's April. That either March or April. That Jupiter. I think it might be March actually, but while we're still kind of waiting on Jupiter's to be giving at max power when it's direct in Cancer, right now we kind of have to take what we can get, and I think that moon sextile Jupiter it's not having that necessarily that blind trust. I think that it's ways, how can I feel that or trust in a better time to come, thinking about ways that one can invest in oneself. So it's like, let's say if you're noticing that, let's say your home space is not supporting your needs, maybe I'd be thinking about what are some ways that what are some, and again, that where that moon runs into Saturn, what are some things that I could do to maybe move? Because some people aren't able to do that just right off the bat. There's a lot of planning that goes into that. Where thinking about location, all those things, all the Saturnian things, the responsibilities, the weighing down of stuff. It just that's what this energy kind of gives me, this feeling of wanting to hope, but it seems like there's just blockages and walls in every direction. And it's not that I think that Saturn is just necessarily denying things. It's just that it's not going to be immediate. It's going to be something that you're going to have to be patient with, that's going to, that it puts that test. It can feel that weight. It can be, I think, demotivating sometimes when we look at things taking time, especially with how I think some cultures have been cultivated with that sense of immediate gratification. We're able to get things at a touch of a dime, or, whether it's searching on our phones or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, this one's definitely kind of a mixed bag, but at least I like it. If there's going to be that opposition, at least Jupiter's in there trying to soften that with that sextile sum, with that kind of Saturn there. And I think that it's too with Jupiter, having those people around you, those people that lift you up, those people that can maybe even provide you with ways that with resources that maybe you might be lacking. So that could be something where I think Jupiter is always a great one to ask people for help, when we have those sort of aspects there, whether it be information, whether it be resources, whatever that is. And this could be even too, this kind of invitation, just thinking about this, could be that thinking about the things that we love, and what are we willing to do to get to that thing? How much time are we willing to put in? Not knowing, when it's going to come, but knowing that it will come eventually. I think that that's going to be something that this transit could potentially build up as well there. Interesting kind of start to the week. But then we get to the 5th here, and the moon's going to move into Libra, and that's going to happen at about 1:32 a.m. Pacific time. And if you're watching the chart here, got the moon at 0 degrees of Libra, and we're looking at the lay of the land here. Now, the moon's busy because it's going to be forming a trine with all of these Aquarius placements here if we're looking at the lay of the land. It's gone where it's out of the view of Saturn for a while, so that's nice, at least while it's going through Libra. And then it still has its now kind of overcoming square from Jupiter there. So it's got aspect with both malefics, little thing with Mars there, but at least it's a trine, and that's the one we're talking about. Shortly after the moon enters into Libra, the moon will form a trine with Mars. And this could be where the trine, like I was saying, this is the most positive aspect. And it could create this sense of flow, this sense of ease. And so this could be, okay, we did some heavy contemplation, kind of starting off there. Now let's put it into action. Let's get motivated. Let's put in as much effort and as initiative as we can. And, I find when there are easy aspects with the malefics, it still requires work, but it's just like they may not feel as frustrating as opposed to if the moon were to be squaring Mars, or were to be like conjunct or opposing Mars. So that's just something I think to think about there. This can be a very kind of motivating time with that trine, especially with it being in this air energy. This could be a good sort of mental thing. Libra coming up, being the initiator of air, and check to see where you have Libra in your chart, see where the moon is moving through. We'll see what house the moon is moving through when it's going through, or house or houses the moon is moving through when it's going through Libra. But this could be this getting some ideas flowing, creative. I think of always creativity when we're talking about with Libra, that inspiration that can come there. And with all these trines, you can take that really somewhere. This could be a very fruitful moon in Libra. It's under the rulership of Venus. It has reception with its ruler, so that's potentially positive there. So not too bad for kind of starting off this moon in Libra. And then we get to the 6th of February, and then the moon will form a square with Jupiter. And so this could be where, if we're feeling that square, that's when the celestial bodies are 90 degrees apart from one another. And so there's this tension that can happen with the squares were associated as being kind of martial in nature. And so there could be this sense with the moon squaring Jupiter. I want to get to thinking about the things that maybe you want to, the legacy that you're trying to build, and the work that it, again, that requires to get those, the investment that it takes to get that thing started. But I think it's like once we, whatever this happens, it may be, once we start taking those sorts of steps, the moon trine the sun, that is, I like when the moon's trining the sun. That always gives me this feeling of where the mind and like kind of like the soul and the body are feeling as one. It's just easy to be with oneself, to be able to, there's not that interference. There's something about just things just flowing. This gives me, especially with air energy, this would be, I think, a really great kind of creative time. This could be a great time to meet up with some friends, possibly again to ask for that sort of help. Maybe with that moon square Jupiter, we're feeling short on funds for some sort of reason. That could be you getting that again, finding those different avenues for things, finding different, yeah, streams of support. I think with this kind of pocket here. So that's, I kind of like the six energy there. And it's, even though it's a square, it's a harder aspect. At least it's with the benefics, and sometimes that can lead to, I think what can happen when when the planets are squaring the benefics, I think it could be a great time too to looking at where we may have been taking things for granted, where we've not been making the most of the abundance that we have. There could always be, I think, sometimes that wanting more in looking towards the future, but then that taking us out of the present. And it's always a balance, always going between those states. But I do think that we have to remember to appreciate the things that we have accumulated, with that moon, looking at your moon representing like possessions, or moon looking at maybe like the place that you're living in. And no area is perfect, obviously, but it's, what are the aspects that we do like about it? What are some things that still support this calling? And again, if the moon square Jupiter could even just be showing too, where maybe one's not feeling like as abundant as one would like to be, and what ways can we change that? That doesn't have to be a period where one is disempowered. I think with the moon square Jupiter, it can be one where you see those things, and it can be a change in perspective. With the moon Jupiter, like, what, I'm gonna have to maybe make some sort of moves, and again, however that may be showing up in your chart. But yeah, that's basically the six there. Let's go on and move on to the next day here, because before the moon moves into Scorpio, the moon's going to form a trine with Venus. And what I like about the trine with Venus is that it creates, again, this sense of harmony, I think, with Venus. This could be a great time for talking about the concerns maybe that you're having that sense of community can be powerful. We're meant to be, yeah, of course we have to have our private time, our alone time, but we're social beings. And I think that the benefics remind us of the importance of the people that come in and out of our life, that create those opportunities, those things like that. This could be where that trine just makes it easier just to get something off one's chest, to maybe come at it again with that air, maybe being able to conceptualize the emotions better. You're being able to put the feelings into thoughts, that moon energy, and then channel it through the air, or even finding someone to help maybe navigate these. Maybe if there's things that are coming up for you in the body, however that may be kind of looking like for you there. I think that could be a really nice moon trine Venus energy there. And then we get to where the moon will move into Scorpio, and that's going to happen at about 11:13 a.m. Pacific time. And I got the chart up here for that. Moon at 0 degrees of Scorpio. Now, this is always a trickier one for the moon, just because this is where the moon finds its fall in Scorpio. So it can be a bit tricky, just again a bit harder for the moon to do its lunar things that it likes to do. It's not that it can't, but it's under the rulership of Mars. And when we're looking at the lay of the land, now the moon's going to be squaring all of those Aquarius placements, Mars included. We have, and this is actually kind of a busy one. This is, Scorpio is going to be one where the moon will be talking with all of the celestial bodies at some point there. And first one is, speaking of communication, moon's going to first be talking with Mercury once it enters into Scorpio here. And if you're looking at the chart, Mercury just entered into Pisces not too long ago. I want to say yesterday on the 6th, or not yesterday, but on the 6th is when Mercury enters into Pisces. And so, and Mercury's going to be here for a while. Mercury's going to be here at least through April, considering that it's going to be going retrograde in Pisces towards the end of the month. So this could just be a great time to get a feel for that now. You get to understanding like what areas do you have Pisces in your chart? Is it like this chart here? If you have Taurus rising, and if let's say Pisces is a sign that's activated for you, then Mercury's going to be activating themes in like your house of friends, your hopes and dreams, benefactors, things along those lines when we're coming with that. And so how is it relating to that? How is the moon relating to that? So that's something that, one way to look at how these things are going to be going there. But moon trine Mercury too, I think, can be a really great time for, especially in water signs. I think, again, too, another time where we're getting less now, where we're getting out of the logical of the air and we are dipping more into the emotions. But I think that this can be those sort of deeper talks that one has with Moon and Scorpio. And with, I think, Mercury and Pisces, this can be the ways that if we find ourselves stuck in any sort of energy, to help one move through an experience. I think Moon trine Mercury would be great for any sort of like therapy sort of things, or just sort of, whether that's talking with a person, anything along those lines, I think can be really nice for a Moon trine Mercury there. So there's something to just kind of pay attention to. Because then we get to the 8th of February, and this is where the moon has its another hard aspects. And the moon does this twice a month, where it'll have these hard aspects with Mars. And the moon square Mars can be frustrating times. It can be not just frustrating, but just energizing times. But I would be mindful about, especially in Scorpio, Mars in Aquarius could be hooked on a thought, thinking about wanting to drive one way, and then the moon it's like the emotions are fueling that. So making sure that there is that head-heart connection, I think, is something important to keep in mind of when we're dealing with Moon-Mars squares. Because they can be infuriating sometimes. They can create but I also think that it's not all just struggles with that. It can create this some action to happen, because then the moon is not just having with this hard conversation with Mars. There's something coming from it with the moon trining Jupiter. And so this could be, let's say, for example, there's a conversation that needs to be had, but you know that you're not in the right space for it. Let's give it some time, pause for a minute, think about one's approach, and then when we get to that space, when we're feeling ready, it becomes less of like I'm talking at you and then I'm talking with you. That can be just one example. But this gives where, too, if you're wanting to get something, I think, accomplished, it may require some force. It may require there may be some frustrations along the way. But I think with that Jupiter, it will. And it's something where I think if we're not dealing with this thing by ourselves, whatever this thing do, if that's possible, that it can create some ease that this Moon Jupiter trine is trying to bring in there. And again, with Jupiter being retrograde, it may be something that is a little bit delayed, but it can, I think Moon Jupiter can be, it's a really positive aspect, that happens. Again, like that one happens at least twice a month. So yeah, we like a Moon trine Jupiter. This is definitely sort of a mixed bag. Another one like that, similar to that when we had that earlier with Jupiter and Saturn that was going on there. So something to tune into on the 8th. And then we get to this last one here on the 9th. Before the moon enters into Sagittarius, The moon first is going to square the sun, and this is going to be the last quarter phase. That's going to happen at about 4:43 a.m. Pacific time. And the moon squaring the sun can feel a bit unsettled. It can feel that you're just feeling at odds with oneself, just more so on a personal level. But this could be where there's some tension. Sometimes the sun, can be associated with like authorities and people like the king. And so maybe there's something where the moon is feeling at odds with, like, maybe there's something at your job, or maybe something with however that may translate. But it's giving something just a little bit tense at first when we're talking with that moon squared the sun. It's something that we may have to with the next the moon will try in Saturn. That may lead to, okay, we're in those, because these are the moon is very regular in how it changes, even though the moon represents these inconsistencies. It's consistent in its inconsistency. And I think that when we get around these sort of harsh aspects here, instead of like that moon squaring Venus, like turning against one another, where we maybe lash out or things along those lines, where that moon trining Saturn can be like, okay, you know what? I am noticing I'm feeling off, and maybe I need to give myself and others a little bit of space right now to kind of process some things, to figure out what am I doing, with myself, kind of long term there, whatever this maybe moon and Scorpio may be bringing up in your chart. And then that, I think, with the moon squaring Venus, helps one to come at one's relationships a little bit different, and even see where you're kind of reprioritizing, how you're relating to others. That could even be something that happens there with the moon squaring Venus. But I would be mindful just how we had that square with Mars leading up from the day before, that sometimes has those kind of long-term effects, especially in those fixed signs where we have some tensions in relationships and things. So, and that's pretty much, and then after all of that, the moon will enter into Sagittarius, and that happens a bit later that day at about 11:21 p.m. Pacific time, and I have that chart up there. And when we look at this one, this is a bit of a tricky one, and this will be kind of we'll be going into this into next week. But looking at the lay of the land, where it's nice when the moon's in Sag, there's this sort of reception that's happening. The moon and the sun, or excuse me, the moon and Jupiter are in each other's home signs, so there does create this reception, but Jupiter still doesn't see the moon, and same with the moon seeing Jupiter. There's no aspect that's forming between them. And Venus is actually on its way out of Aquarius when the moon first enters into Sag. So there may be a little bit of trickiness with this one, considering that we have aspects with Mars, and then there's this hard aspect with Saturn that's going to be happening. There's not going to be any benefics that are going to be bringing any sort of ease into that, not until the moon enters into Capricorn. So, and then let me go ahead and switch over. But yeah, that's how the moon's looking in Sagittarius. That's going to be an interesting end to the week. And it's like we're getting ready to get into these big kind of transition phases. Mercury just entered in the Pisces, Venus going to enter in the Pisces, Saturn's going to enter into Aries. The February's here, and it's getting ready to do. Eclipses are coming. the eclipse is right around the corner, within about a week, but that will be getting into that, be talking about that energy here soon. So there's a lot that's kind of building up right now, and it feels like the moon is getting prepped for that. And I think that's what this week is kind of inviting us to, just get prepped for that. Get things in order. Look at these areas in our charts that these planets are transiting, because they're all been transiting very close to one another over these last few months, since they all entered into Sagittarius, and they've just been moving through these sectors of our chart and just lighting things up. And so, I'm always a big proponent too of just having that sense of community, having people that you can talk with, being able to create that space to share one's concerns, and not just concerns, but to share one's triumphs too. Because even when there's things that are happening around us, there are still a lot of positive things that are happening too. It's and I think that can be hard to remember when it seems like the malefics are turned all the way up. It can seem like it's like the benefics aren't doing the same, but they're, especially when Venus moves, I think that's going to bring in at least some sort of ease, something, to help us kind of guide through this thing. But again, something that I think that definitely helps us to have each other in this, and to be able to lean on each other when we're going through this period of time. So yeah, that's the energy of the week. Yeah, not too bad for first week of February. But I do think that things are definitely going to start picking up here. Starting going forward. So. But that's all I got for you there. And if this is something that if you want help seeing how this is showing up in your chart, down in the description box, there's a link to book a consultation with me, so definitely check that out. And if you have any questions about the services that I provide, anything along those lines, my email's down there, so definitely feel free to reach out to me. I have this, what else? I have this and the Celestial News Monthly in playlist as well, so if that's something where you want to check out the videos that I've done, get to see how the month of February is looking, see where these aspects are falling in your chart, things like that. That'll be available for you. I also have these. All right, we're back. But yeah, so yeah, and let's see, where was I leaving off? Oh yes, the last thing, if you want, I have also on my channel, I have these videos that I've been doing, this little short series talking about different planetary placements in different zodiac signs in different houses, and that's all organized for you by playlist. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely go check that out. And it's just videos to show ways that you can approach and start to dissect how each of the planets are ruling different places of your house, where they flow to, and things like that. But yeah, just me just sort of like reflecting over this week. It's been a pretty solid week, actually. I've got quite a lot done, just like kind of like work wise. Been feeling more. I have a lot of more supportive transits that are coming through. The Aquarius stuff, I have a Leo stellium, so this Aquarius, have my eyes on this Aquarius party, and I'm definitely looking at this eclipse. It's happening too close to my Venus placement, so we're gonna keep an eye on that. But it's not nearly like I thought it would be. Definitely more cerebral with all the Aquarius stuff that's going on. I definitely thought there'd be a little more fire that's going on, but not nearly as much. It's been all right. It's been reprioritizing some things, so that's been a nice adjustment, I will say, and it has brought some new relationships have been brought into the mix there, so that's been really cool, making different connections and things. And yeah, there's another thing that I'm about to gonna be doing here soon that I'm definitely entertaining. But yeah, the Aquarius part of my chart has been active. Relationships have been active because I have a Leo rising. So yeah, has been active. I'm looking forward to them moving all into Pisces, because Pisces is they'll square my moon, which is that's meh. But at least it'll be a lot quieter than it has been with the Aquarius section. So that's one thing I do sort of appreciate about the Pisces portion of my chart. And this is where why I talk about it like that, to see where you have these things, so you can see where, like, oh, look, a break. in that nice. The only thing they'll square my moon, and then they'll all form like a trine with my sun. So that one I like. I do like a good trine. But yeah, that's basically been the week for me, because we moved through, what did we move through? Libra. Yeah, usually the Sun in Cancer. Sun in Cancer is usually like a pretty chill time for me. The Moon in Leo, that was or should I say Sun in Cancer? The Moon in Cancer are usually pretty chill times for me. Moon in Leo, those tend to be more kind of active times for me, especially like it's going through my first house. So I do find that I do have a bit more energy there. I've been feeling a bit, again, a bit more motivated. So that's been really nice. Been wanting to get some more things done. Then Moon moving through Virgo goes. That's a bit of a quieter one for me. Similar to Pisces, it's my money house. So thinking about my spendings and things, but yeah, that's basically been the week for me. And leave in the comment section how this week's been going for you. Do you have how's this planetary parade been lighting up your chart? And are you ready for what Saturn's getting ready to bring with the Aries portion of your chart? I'd be interested to hear how that's going for you there. And it's a good time to be thinking about that. Definitely a good time to be thinking about it. All right, but I think that's all I got for you. So until next time, stay mindful out there. You keep eyes on that moon, because yeah, I just sent one last thing. I put some posts on these pictures that I had with the moon, and Jupiter was very close in both of those pictures. But I did one picture, managed to get one picture in particular where the moon is giving off this like halo in the sky. It's really dope. It's really dope. So get out there and look at that moon if the sky is clear enough for you. This was one of those times where it's not like cloudy here. And so I've been appreciating it. I've been getting some good moon action as of late. So get yourself some, keep eyes on that good old moon. Should be rising here soon. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.